Hi, everybody. So Brian already introduced me. I'm Mike Sanders. I'm the Housing Homeless Coordinator for the City of Fairbanks, and I'm happy to be here. This is third time I've been at the conference, I think. They're always really awesome. And with me is Brenda McFarland. Brenda is a rock star in Fairbanks. Everybody in the social services world in Fairbanks knows Brenda because of the awesome work she's doing. Maybe a couple of weeks ago, we're looking on the agenda, and we saw the rapid rehousing thing, and I was like, man, I wonder if that was something that I volunteered us to do. But at any rate, Brenda was nice enough to put together an awesome presentation. So we'll start off. I'll do a quick part of it, and then I'm going to turn it over to the real expert, who is Brenda. So sweet, got the word. All right. So how did we end up with this rapid rehousing thing that everybody's always talking about? Well, back in 2017, we're in a lot of transition in Fairbanks. A lot of things were just changing. And about that time, we had an awesome AmeriCorps Vista member that was serving with the Fairbanks Housing and Homeless Coalition. It was Scott Weiser. For anybody that's met Scott, he was usually the smartest guy in the room, and I'm not just making that up. He really was. He was the quietest guy in the room, but he's usually the smartest too. So we decided that we're going to do a SWOT analysis of the community. And we came up with this huge packet of stuff that, hours and hours of work doing it. But I took out a few of the highlights from our SWOT analysis. So one thing is we had really experienced agencies. We had folks that had been doing this type of work, like, oh, I've been doing it for 20 years. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've been doing it for 15 years, whatever. And meanwhile, at that time, I've been on the job for 2 days. So, I didn't have any housing background. I didn't know what I was doing. So anyway, we had these really strong agencies, and they were a definite strength. The weakness was glaring. We had a lack of collaboration, which and that was 2017. 2020 in Fairbanks, that's not the case. Like now, that's definitely our strength. But back then, like our coalition meetings and stuff, we might have 10, 12 folks there, and they usually weren't pretty, and we've had some things change, and now that's not an issue. But back then, it was an issue. And then there was this coordinated entry system thing, and because I was the guy typing, I put it down as an opportunity. I'm pretty sure that most people thought it was a threat, though. Honestly, Scott and I, many nights we're like, man, we're gonna get ran out of town for promoting this coordinated entry stuff. But persistency paid off, and eventually it all came to. And then the threat. The threat back in 2017 is this threat that we have in 2020. It was precarious funding. The work that we're doing, we're not helping folks that can pay us a bunch of money to do it. We're helping folks that don't have any funds whatsoever to contribute towards the project. So, that was the problem then, that's the problem now. It's always going to be the problem. But we took all this stuff, and this was Scott's idea. I give him full credit, Scott Weiser. He's like, what we need? We need a rapid rehousing program. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no way a rapid rehousing project. In my mind, I'm like everybody's talking permanent supportive housing. That's the only thing that works. We need to do, that's what all the agencies wanted. They wanted permanent supportive housing, and rapid rehousing is not very popular, and they already don't like us because of coordinated entry, and you want to throw this at them. But like I said, Scott was the smartest guy in the room, so I listened to what he had to say, and then I knew that other people would start listening to what he had to say as well. All right, so what is rapid rehousing? There's lots of different programs that are called rapid rehousing. There's lots of different variations of rapid rehousing. The model that we went with was very similar to what they do for the Supportive Services for Veterans Families, the SSVF program. And basically what you're doing is you're taking folks within 30 days of entering the program, you're helping them pick out a private market rental somewhere in the community that makes sense for them, and within reason. If it's a single person, you're not going to go out and get them a 3-bedroom or anything like that. But you work with them so that they're in their normal network to get them into a place that makes sense. And you're providing a little bit of tapering financial support in the beginning, but more importantly, you have rock star case management with folks like Brenda and Levi, who's not here today, providing that. And so why would we want this in Fairbanks? We had all the same stuff that most other communities have. They like, oh, we can't do it because we don't have the vacancies, we don't have the this, we don't have the that. it's not about what you don't have. It's about what you do have. There's some villages I will say it won't work. Savonga, it's not going to work. Obviously, I mean you don't have the infrastructure for it. But if you have vacancies in your town, rapid rehousing is probably what you should be looking at. And the reason for that is a high fidelity rapid rehousing program is going to move the needle on homelessness. I know I've been in so many meetings and conferences and stuff where people talk about what's going to move the needle. It's prevention, diversion first, and then if that doesn't work, rapid rehousing. Personally, what I would like to see, I wish that we could have a rapid rehousing program that was funded like a permanent supportive housing program. If we had a rapid rehousing program that was, $1 million a year, we'd probably be, housing 100 people, 120 people, somewhere in there. Instead, with permanent supportive housing, which we do need permanent supportive housing. I'm not knocking permanent supportive housing, but with that, you figure, Fairbanks has about 60 units of permanent supportive housing between 3 different agencies. Probably $1.5 million-ish to do that, every year. The problem with that, though, is it's $1.5 million for this 60 people this year. The same 60 people next year, $1.5 million. Same 60 people the year after that, $1.5 million. Whereas with rapid rehousing, you're doing 100 people, 120 people a year, getting them housed, having awesome results like Brenda's going to talk about. You'll see why rapid rehousing is a program that really moves the needle. First, prevention diversion, then rapid rehousing. I think everybody, before going to any sort of permanent supportive housing, they should try a rapid rehousing. I wish we had that sort of capacity to do that. Rapid rehousing, it's low cost, high results, really short timeline, getting people back on their feet as quick as you can. And it encourages client choice. And sorry, I'm kind of rushing through this because I know we're on a tight timeline here. So how we got going, again, Scott Weiser, AmeriCorps visitor, came in. He had some awesome ideas. He knew the system inside and out. He knew what would work. He helped build capacity to make that happen. Constant stakeholder engagement, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. There was a lot of people that were skeptics. That are not skeptics anymore, and it's because of that constant engagement. We kind of had to force the development of coordinated entry. Now it's working. We're in the infancy of it, but it's working. It's probably going to get better, but it is working. We had an event called the Symposium on Homelessness. Again, Scott Weiser's idea, AmeriCorps Vista thing. Wasn't my idea. I actually dreaded it, but it turned out to be awesome. We got about 200 people in the room. We brought in all sorts of leading speakers. We brought in the Technical Assistance Collaborative to talk about rapid rehousing. We had Kelda from the Trust there, talking about the Trust. We had Colleen, who's back there. She brought up a Region 10 Director, Jeff McMorris. It was his first trip as the Region 10 Director, so that was a real honor. And then what we did was we started planning. The very next day after the symposium, we started planning this project out. And we didn't force anybody's hand. If an agency didn't want to be involved, we're like, okay, you don't have to be involved. These other 5-6 agencies are going to be involved. Well, that 5 or 6 agencies ended up being 11 agencies overall. And we were able to get the rapid rehousing program going. And as we're doing it, we wanted it to be as high fidelity as possible, hitting all those milestones, all those markers. And the one that I know Brian wants us to talk about is dynamic prioritization. So with coordinated entry, we've got you do the VS-BDAT, and if somebody scores between 0 and 3, they're in that prevention diversion section. You get them in with those limited prevention diversion funds, and what was it? I think Brian had the stats of 95% aren't going to come back into homelessness. Well, after that, you go into a VS-BDAT of 4 to 7, and that's your rapid rehousing range. Technically, that's like if somebody scores in that range, it's a clear-cut referral to Brenda's program, and they're going to get housed. What we decided we wanted to do was something that was really new at the time. It's called dynamic prioritization, and that allows us to go outside those norms. It doesn't allow us to go into the prevention diversion with rapid rehousing, but it allows us to go into that permanent supportive housing range and attempt rapid rehousing with those folks. And I know Brenda's going to get into the details of it, but I can say as an outside observer of this, It's been amazing. I know that there have been people that were on a permanent supportive wait list that within days of talking to Brenda were in a private market rental of their choosing. They were now employed. They've gotten all the stuff going for them. And I know some of these folks have been in there for quite a while now. They're successfully housed through rapid rehousing, and that is going back to that $1.5 million for 60 people thing. That's one person that's not waiting on that anymore. So now I'm going to turn it over to Brenda.
All right. Let's see if I can work this clicker. Okay, so all of our funding is from the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. Until now, we have applied for some HUD COC funding, but this is our sponsor, our funder. And so our project was targeted towards Alaska Mental Health Trust beneficiaries. And so that wasn't a problem at all. We knew that almost all the people staying in shelter on the streets are beneficiary. And that just means there's like a list of things if they're suffering from mental illness, traumatic brain injury, developmental disability, Alzheimer's, chronic substance abuse, then they're considered a beneficiary. So we were not worried that we would struggle to find beneficiaries for this project. And so I would say the most important thing is have a really flexible funder when you're starting out, and they've been amazing to work with. That was our marketing tool that we did for agencies, and I have copies of these if you want one. We decided everybody has business cards, and you kind of like throw them away. I know that's bad to say at a conference, but like make something a little bit bigger to give to people that hopefully they would hold onto and was colorful, and try to keep the same message. So then the next important thing I want to talk about is just our participants. They've been so lovely to work with and learned so much from them. And these were our first two that we housed here, their permission for this photo. And so we do like graduation ceremonies and give people certificates and celebrate their success when they get housed and when they graduate from the program. So it's not just like, we don't want them to think they're done with the program when they get housed, so that they continue meeting with us. And so they really took it on that they were the first people in the program. They needed to be successful. We kind of had those conversations with them, that relationship with the landlord, and they took a lot of ownership in that, about not burning a bridge with the landlord so that other people could move into that same complex, and really, really proud of it. And tell all their coworkers about it and spread the word for us. And this lady here, she's in the union, so she sends me like detailed stuff on the laborers union for me to share with all the other clients, for them to join the union. And so they've just been really invested in our program. So I think that's really important. It's not like our program, it's their program. And it's something that we're all starting together. And that was part of our language a lot. Okay, so we were awarded the money in July 2018 from the trust. And so it was a small amount, not $1 million. So we started writing, and we still don't have coordinated entry going. We're still in planning stages. So we just did tons of work on how could other agencies refer people to our program, because we were kind of scared. Or like, is the jail gonna send us every single person? Is the treatment program gonna just say, well, they'll house you when you're done with treatment? And we would have them all like, when are you gonna house me? So we were like, how can we do this? For our definition, for our program, we didn't have any prevention money. So they had to be literally homeless, HUD standard, in a shelter, or staying in a place that was not habitable. So couch surfing, call after call after call from agencies. Oh, this person's living with their uncle, like, can't help them. Well, can they come spend one night in the shelter? Trying to do all these workarounds. And so that was really difficult to navigate. And in the beginning, I was kind of like, yeah, I guess you could, until I realized that never worked out. I can never keep contact with people that came to spend like one night in the shelter to become homeless and then go back with family. And so I got stricter. It's like, if they're not homeless now, like they don't qualify for the program. This is basically, I don't want people to become homeless to do this program. And then, like I said, Alaska Mental Health Trust being flexible, spent a lot of time writing. We got coordinated entry going. We started with clients. And so by the end of the first year, we're supposed to house, have 40 participants in the program. We had about households. We had about 25. We knew we were going to. So can we have an extension, 3 months to get to the 40? They were like, sure, absolutely, no problem. Awesome to work with. We got the 40 at the end of September, and we had half the money still left. Like, we were really frugal. We've been a homeless shelter forever operating, and so we don't spend a lot of money. I spent $60 on advertising for someone to make a logo for us, and then I created everything else. So we're like, we have half of the money. Can we go another year with the original amount you gave us? They said, sure. And so that's what we did. Let's see. So first participant was housed December 2018. Took us a long time. Maybe it wouldn't take you that long, from getting the money from July. We had a lot of staff shortages, that kind of thing. I was doing multiple jobs. I was HR. I was writing this program. So hopefully you wouldn't be in that same position. And then we enrolled the 40, like I said. So by September 30, 2019, we had only had one household return to homelessness. By the end of September, everybody else had maintained their housing. And then now, through the second year, we've enrolled 52, and we only have 2 returns back to homelessness. And so it's really exciting. I didn't really believe in rapid rehousing. I didn't think you could just give people money and they would do anything with it. I thought, you should have to work to get that money, so you're appreciating like what your parents tell you, and then you'll take care of what you have. And I just didn't think it would work, and it totally works. So turned me into a believer. So 58% of the enrollees we housed with My Place funds, and 18% we only provided case management to, but they housed themselves. And that was kind of like hard for me to understand. I'm like, calling up the person for the next meeting. They're like, oh, I got an apartment. I'm like, what? I could have saved you like $7,000 because we can pay for rent for 6 months, a security deposit. But I was like, we gave them what they needed. We gave them that encouragement. We had paid for a birth certificate, paid for some application fees, and they were just done with being part of programs. Maybe they've already been part of a recovery program. They've been in the shelter for a while, and they just were ready to cut ties, but they housed themselves. And so it was hard for me to see that as a success, but now I do. And then 23% just completely, disappeared after we enrolled them, and, never knew what happened to them, as I'm sure, And so every 3 or 4 months, I stalk them. Sometimes I search their name on Facebook to see if they're still in the community, and I'll call them. And then one guy, we had some youth because we were doing 18 plus, so we had some 18 to 24, and so I just would be like, you don't have to reply to me anything more than yes or no. Are you housed? And then I get yes, I'm with friends. I'm like, okay, all right, and move on. So I try to follow those people. So 77% are leaving homelessness after enrollment. Our goal is 85%. I guess that's the national standard. I don't see how that's possible, but we'll probably get there. And then 73% of our households are trust beneficiaries, and so I was not surprised by that. A lot of the kids or spouses in the family are also trust beneficiaries. We didn't have to work for that. There was never a point where I was like, oh, let's enroll this family because they're trust beneficiaries and this family wasn't. We enrolled people that were, and it just happened. And then 46% of our beneficiaries live with mental illness. So that's of the head of household. So the number's bigger when you count spouses and children. So this isn't cream of the crop, this person, they were saying early, is 100% clean or is completely, following all their medication plan. This is just generally from who's walking through the door that's staying in shelter or on the street. Okay, so philosophy, we definitely felt that it was more than housing that you needed to stabilize. And so we address all kinds of things in our case plans. Beyond the housing, I paid like $100 university fee for someone that's taking a wildlife fighter class and wants to fight fires this summer. I was really excited about that. And the trust has been so flexible because, other grants we had and you couldn't pay for certain things. And I would be like, can I buy food for this person? Because he needs it now and we can't get a food box. And they'd be like, go ahead. And so a lot of IDs, a lot of birth certificates. You guys all know that. And then we were just really like, trust is giving this money. This is our first shared program. This program has to be successful. So that was our big thing. Like, we do not want to crash and burn with this program. And then relationships with landlords being paramount. And so, like the lady was saying earlier, I really, advocate for the landlord. If they call me and say they had to call the police, twice that night, so something a client said, I don't start just like defending the client. Well, I'm like, I am so sorry. I will talk to that person. I will get back to you, and then I talk to the client. I have the client call the landlord because we want to keep that relationship because most of our enrollees are on a fixed income and there are not that many places. You guys know with the supplement, that's around like $1,100 if they have the disability plus APA. So if they have $1,100 a month, I try to keep their rent, around $650, $700. We don't have that many places that are $650, $700 that are not sketch. Like, there's one place they'll take people, I have to go buy like lamps and stuff. Like, it is not, it's just right on the edge. And so I do not want to lose one of those landlords. Like, the landlords, if their apartments are like $1,400, I'm not as concerned, but those ones that have units for $650, those are my priority landlords that I go and I drop off the check every time. I talk to them and we sent them thank you cards for Christmas, how many people we had housed for the year. I mean, we were like schmoozing with these people because we wanted to keep them. All right, lessons learned. Be careful about enrollment. Some of my 23% here was me like falling in love with the client, that very first meeting. They're awesome. I'm enrolling you. I've never seen you before, but you're perfect for the program. I enrolled them, and then I never saw them again. And so now I have to count them as part of, this statistic that did not leave homelessness. So I did start scheduling another meeting in 2 days and maybe a third meeting like the next week before I enrolled. So I think next year our success rate will be even higher. Like, I'm not really enrolling people the first time I meet them because I get referrals from other agencies. And so they've already done the SPDAT form, referred them, and so I would enroll them sometimes on that first meeting, and I've stopped doing that. And then teach the community what your eligibility requirements are. So these were for agencies because they were just not understanding the literal homelessness part, that we didn't have prevention money. It was just, and so it's just continue. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. And don't get frustrated about it. Remember, HUD language is not simple. Try to simplify it. And remember when you were trying to get people into housing as a case manager and how you were just desperate and you were going to call places that you knew probably couldn't help them, you were just going to call anyway. So try not to get frustrated with that. And then Kelda from the trust, she was the one that gave me the third tidbit, was although we have the dynamic prioritization and we can go all the way up to someone that should definitely be in permanent supported housing, but we're going to try rapid rehousing, keep that ratio reasonable to your case manager's time. So if it's me and one other person, most likely the person that scores 17 on the VSPDAT form, which is online. If you haven't seen it, I can help you find it, versus like a 5 is going to take a lot more of your time. And you can tell, like, by the interview, like, how compounded the trauma is, how many barriers there are, and so you do need to balance that with your time. And so there'd be, like, one client where I would be, like, 4 times a week dealing with situations with this one, and I haven't met 5 people that I housed 2 weeks ago. So you can't keep doing that, because the other ones are just gonna fall through the cracks. You have to be able to figure out what the right balance is for your program. And then make decisions as a team. Don't have the decision all on you about who you enroll and don't enroll. You know, we know this business, like, people die, tragic things happen, and so you don't want that to be a decision that you made, you're just yourself, of who you were gonna enroll and not enroll. And have good mentors like Mike and Austin as sounding boards. You know, this is what this call was about. What do you think? Or head in this direction. Surround yourself with good people. And that's it. Question time. Dash and then.
So you did mention you serve 18 and over. I just one question. So you do take them from the coordinated entry?
Yes.
And so there is a second process. So they have the referral process, and you guys have the enrollment process.
Exactly. It's really confusing because I'm doing both in Fairbanks. So I'm doing coordinated entry. Pretty much, we're the only agency. Well, I shouldn't say, because the other agency that's doing is DV, and then the other one is like 18 and under. So almost all the clients come to us if they're not DV or 18 and under. So that got really confusing too, because I have to really specify that I'm not enrolling them into my place. I'm doing coordinated entry. They'll get a referral. I don't tell them from me, and then I call them in from my place. Yeah. Yeah.
So are there any like specific qualifications to be enrolled if the young person if the person is referred to?
I mean, just like HUD, they have to be low income, and they have to have scored above that 3. Like, they can't be the prevention diversion. You can re-SPDAT someone like within 4 months or something, if you really think their answers weren't correct and you're like, this score is so low, I know they weren't being honest with everything, I think it should be higher. So I did do that with one person, and I knew he got kicked out of the shelter because he got kicked out of our shelter. So I was like, isn't this answer a yes? And then I got him up to a 4. Yeah, exactly. And then you?
Yeah, you in the slide before you said that it was just part of your participants were people as part of the trust beneficiaries, but some were not. So you have some that are not trust beneficiaries. So what money are you using to rapidly house them?
So the trust didn't require that they be 100%. They actually were like 37% or something, had to be, it was pretty low. And so, yeah, we're able to, yeah.
Hi, I just, so we do, Catholic Social Services also does a lot of rapid rehousing, and this has been a lot of useful information. I would regret it I had to miss part of it. I just wanted to, was something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I've been saying, and I wondered what you all thought of it, because you kind of started with it, is this idea that I'm starting to believe that every single person we put in housing should start in rapid rehousing. And then after, let's see how they're doing in 3 months, and if they need to go into permanent supported housing. So we have a really specific model. We use the evidence-based model. We use critical time intervention. Our rapid rehousing model generally, everybody gets a year of case management. We have 6 months of financial assistance. We're trying to really standardize that practice and then fine-tune it depending on the vulnerability of each client, so that we can really do a cost analysis of this someone with these kinds of needs costs this much. Someone with these kinds of needs costs this other amount. But I just wonder, we recently got funded to do more work in families, and we're really excited to expand our rapid rehousing there. But I guess I believe if a family has stayed together, even if they're really vulnerable, if they score a really high score on vulnerability, I believe that they're going to be able to be rapidly rehoused and not going to need permanent supported housing if they kept their kids.
Mike definitely has an opinion about that.
I completely agree. Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said that I wish that we had rapid rehousing that was funded at the level of permanent supportive housing. It really should be in my opinion, the first thing, of course, prevention diversion. If you can get away with that, that's the most effective. The next most effective thing is rapid rehousing. I wish we had the ability, and I realize funding and resources and blah, but I really wish that we had the ability to do rapid rehousing for everybody, to try that with everybody, because Brenda, we're a little bit compressed, on time and stuff, but I know that she has people that have been way up there on the, have you gone all the way up to 17? Or I know it's 15 on Viespadat for rapid rehousing. That's why, and when she was talking about hey, we haven't reached the national goals yet, those goals were set way before dynamic prioritization existed. So 73 when they were only taking 4 to 7, 85% when they were only taking Viespadat scores of 4 to 7. That's not that big a deal. I guarantee that Brenda has hit that mark. But take 73% going all the way up to 15. That's pretty impressive.
I totally agree with you. I just want to say, our agency housed more than 300 households last year, and most of those are rapid rehousing. And I just believe that's the way to go. I just want to say, the next time you guys are in Anchorage, will you come to Catholic Social Services and talk with our program? Because I'd love to collaborate about this a little bit more.
Awesome. Yeah, sure.
One thing I didn't say, because it's not super popular in the housing first world, is we do really stress income. We talk about that from the very beginning. I do a budget where we leave the rental amount out with their other bills and see what's left over. And I'm like, this is what you can afford. And a lot of times, it's like 300, 400. So you're going to have to get your income up 700 or 800 a month. And this is for people that aren't just on disability income. So we know from the beginning, you might want an apartment that's 1,400 or 1,200, but you got to start working from day one. And we're going to put you in it, but you're going to have to work really hard to take over that rent.
That 77% success rate or whatever, do you have stats on the different levels of the scoring?
Oh, I don't yet. I got to ask Holly to make me that report. I love that idea. Thank you. I'll definitely try to get that report. Anything else? Thank you, guys. Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of patterned after the SSVF, and which is very successful also. Can you just mention briefly about the expansion of SSVF throughout the state?
Okay. So SSVF acronym is for Supported Services for Veteran Families. It's a rapid rehousing program paid for by the VA for veterans. And so we had operated that for 6 years at the Fairbanks Rescue Mission, which is part of why we agreed to be a host agency for this. So we did have that lessons learned from that. And then thankfully the VA wasn't our funder, so we didn't have to have like an 85-page program manual and do everything that they have to do. So yeah, what is cool, and maybe this would be something that would happen with other rapid rehousing, is now the VA had a grant process that we applied for to house veterans in rural communities. And so we get like a subcontractor, and we're basically gonna write the check for them, for the people they're already working with, to house that person in the rural community. And so I'm really hearing from everyone, like we actually had one of those communities say, we'd love the money, but there's no housing. And so, that's really highlighting what we've already said. There's no available housing in our community to do this. And so that's what we're starting doing. I think we have Juno, we have Toke, Kenai, Ketchikan. So just in the very, very beginning with that grant. Yeah.
Soon to to be in Matsu, right? No, or?
He knows. Yes, he says yes.
So, because Catholic Social Services subcontracting could move to the Matsu, we're really excited about that.
Awesome.
But I wanted to say, because we're talking about the VA, and we're just talking about pushing the spectrum of rapid rehousing into the group that does permanent supported housing, just to say that we are the SSVF grantee in Anchorage, and they're also pushing the other side of the spectrum. So they have a really robust diversion program that we're piloting, and I'm sure and all the SSVF grantees are piloting and working on, and we're going to be trying to work that into our families group as well as our veterans group. So just to say that, and I mean that there's so much potential there for catching people and preventing homelessness. I think it's really exciting, and I think it's the other side of what it's pre-rapid rehousing.
Rapid resolution. If you want to Google, it's like the new trendy thing from the VA, rapid resolution. Yes. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.